BeakerBeat.
It's Monday, October 24th, 2011, and this week's BeakerBeat, is it the Wolfman, Dr. Jekyll, or Mr. Hyde? Well, just in time for Halloween, Abbott Labs reveals a split personality. Plus, with Halloween right around the corner, we talk to industry CEOs about something really scary, healthcare reform. And hundreds of scientists converge on Munich during Oktoberfest. We'll tell you why, other than the obvious. All that and more in this week's edition of BeakerBeat, brought to you by Life Technologies. To learn more about Life Technologies, visit their company webpage on Beaker.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice, thanks for tuning in. We're here at Oktoberfest, having a lot of fun. They've got beer behind us, I'm going to get one of those. But first, here's this week's top story.
Many things in life, right or wrong, are judged on appearances. Take these pictures, for example. These people look crazy, right? They might be, or might not be, but the pictures make them look like they're ready for an asylum. Pharma, and more specifically Abbott Labs, also has a perception problem. Investors don't find drug company stocks very appealing right now. Well, Abbott has done something about it, splitting into two publicly traded companies, one in diversified medical products and the other in research-based pharmaceuticals. The separation is expected to be complete by the end of next year. CEO Miles White will stay in charge of the diversified medical products business, which includes medical devices, Similac baby formula, and other products. This entity, which generated $22 billion in annual sales, will still be called Abbott. Pharma chief Richard Gonzalez will run the unnamed pharma spinoff, which took in $18 billion in sales last year. Investors cheered the plan, bidding up shares 5% to $55, close to the stock's 52-week high. This decision seems to be a clear signal that it has become extremely hard to get investors on Wall Street to value even the best-selling drugs. Abbott's rheumatoid arthritis drug Humira is one of the world's most successful medicines, generating $6.5 billion in annual sales last year and projected sales growth of 19% this year. But investors refuse to give any reward to Humira lately out of fear that new competitors will crimp its growth, and have wanted to know what Abbott will do when the inevitable competition comes. That has been a drag on the stock. Some investors and analysts had been calling for Abbott, along with other big players like Pfizer and Medtronic, to break itself up, based largely on the same irrational yet unavoidable punishment doled out by investors. So with Abbott's decision to split up moving forward, will others follow their lead? Well, one thing we know about this industry is, if there's a good idea out there, everyone wants a piece of it.
So tell us what you think about this story or any story you see in today's show. It's very simple. Click on the orange button below me, a box will pop up, type in your comment, send it to me. I promise I'll read and respond to every one of them.
And when you're done watching BeakerBeat, check out Beaker's blog. The Occupy Wall Street movement is all the rage, but could it spread to a pharma giant? Plus, the FDA commissioner talks regulatory and budget issues. And Bio speaks out on a path forward for the FDA. Those stories and more on Beaker's blog.
Gyro. That does not sound German to me.
As you know, Beaker recently attended and participated in the world's leading medical technology and diagnostics conference, AdvaMed 2011, the MedTech Conference. We had the unique opportunity to interview several of the CEOs there, and here's what they had to say about the impact of healthcare reform on the industry.
You know, the healthcare reform has scared a lot of patients, and it scared a lot of physicians. And so we see physicians that are kind of evolving their models to maybe a patient-specific type of solution for their patients. They're marketing themselves differently. Patients are very reluctant to miss work, or they're reluctant to deal with the high copays because a lot of companies have gone to high deductible insurance plans. So it's really affected our business. We've had to close a lot of new business to offset lower volume in some of our strongest accounts across the country.
The healthcare reform is a necessary thing. We as Covidien and AdvaMed members want to be part of the solution. There are areas of change. They are very, very radical, but the changes are slower being implemented. So if you look at, in the US, the creation of ACOs, is still a bit in the air. So how the companies prepare for those changes. When you think about the budget constraints that the US government has, what is the potential impact on Medicare, and how is that going to impact the providers? So there are areas that are undefined yet, but the healthcare reform of providing more access to medical technology to the patient, we're all for it. We also need to be part of the solution bending the cost curve. That is quite important. So if we can understand the two pieces that I just mentioned, companies can be quite successful.
The problem when you have an innovative product and it's kind of bridging the gap between medical device and therapeutic is that there's a lot of uncertainty of what regulatory path you have to take. And so with the healthcare reform in place, there's so much uncertainty that everybody's running to Europe first. And so I can't say much more other than let's wait and see. I remain hopeful that the people at the FDA will do the right things, and I'm all for advancing innovation through the FDA as quickly as possible, but it's a wait and see process.
I think most of the industry has been waiting for things to happen. Mostly, I think healthcare reform, it happened, and then they've all waited, and in fact nothing yet has changed. The thing I see probably being the bigger driver will be with the with the deficit cap. Actually, the debate over that, even though it was artificial, but pushing on there towards cuts. Medicare taking 2% out of its budget, maybe or probably 2013. That starts to really put things into focus. Where we come from in the UK, this sort of thing's been going on for a year or two.
Check back again next week for more insight from our CEO interviews at AdvaMed 2011, the MedTech Conference.
Wait a second, this doesn't look like an Oktoberfest. It's like a county fair. Ooh, maybe I can get some fried butter. Butter.
Two premier studies suggest that U.S. device firms are facing more pricing pressure as hospitals look to reduce costs. One study found that hospitals lost $1.82 billion last year on Medicare reimbursement deficits for 12 orthopedic and heart implant procedures. The other study revealed about 70% of hospitals would consider cheaper alternatives to brand-name devices used in trauma care and other areas. Vertex has asked U.S. regulators for a priority review of its new cystic fibrosis therapy. The drug, potentially named Kalydeco, produced remarkable results in late-stage trials. The priority request could shorten the review time from 10 months to 6 months. As you know, the FDA does expedited reviews for breakthrough drugs. The FDA will soon require generic drug makers to submit 12 months of product stability data with ANDAs. That's 4 times as long as currently mandated. GlaxoSmithKline plans to cut 9% of its Quebec City workforce. About 60 jobs are expected to be affected, with most of the cuts coming at a vaccines plant that produces seasonal flu shots. The FDA has granted Medtronic clearance for its Aquamanus 3 system, designed to halt bleeding and minimize blood loss during surgery. The device was acquired by Medtronic through its $480 million buyout of Salient Surgical Solutions earlier this year. Merck Chairman Richard Clark will retire December 1st, leaving Kenneth Frazier with the dual role of Chairman and CEO. Frazier took the operational reins at Merck in January after the company's mandatory retirement age forced Clark to step down. The FDA has given Cook Medical 510(k) clearance to market its Evolution stent. It's designed for use in treating patients with pancreatic or other gastrointestinal-related cancers.
Look at these prices. What are these things, BMWs? $8 for a Frankfurter platter.
A new report from the National Venture Capital Association and PricewaterhouseCoopers say the biotech industry raised $1.1 billion in 96 deals in the third quarter of 2011. That's down 18% in dollars and 20% in the number of deals compared to the third quarter of last year. The medical device industry also saw a similar slip in the third quarter. Overall investment dropped to its lowest volume since the first quarter of 2005. The regulatory challenges are part of the problem, and over the past 2 quarters there's been a shift in industry investments from seed and early stage companies to more later stage companies. VCs are supporting companies they're already invested in but aren't eager to fund new companies. The silver lining, the life sciences sector is still expected to top the $23 billion raised in 2010. It's time for quarterly numbers again. St. Jude Medical reported net sales of roughly $1.4 billion during the third quarter, an increase of 12% versus the same period last year. 48% of sales came in the U.S., while 52% came from international markets. Johnson & Johnson's third quarter earnings fell on lower U.S. sales, but the weak dollar and strong demand overseas helped the company beat Wall Street forecasts. J&J earned $3.2 billion, or $1.15 per share, compared with $3.42 billion a year earlier. Revenue rose 6.8% to $16 billion. More proof now that everybody loves beer. The scientific Oktoberfest was this year's meeting point for some of the most internationally distinguished researchers in the field of chemical biology. The so-called Sipsumfest of chemical biology was held in mid-September in Munich, Germany, which is home of the beer-drinking and sometimes wacky Oktoberfest. We can't confirm or deny that the attendees did any of this stuff, but we'll assume they did because, Jeremy and I would do it if we were there. What we can confirm is that at the 2-day conference, 400 researchers from around the world discussed state-of-the-art research in various fields spanning from chemistry to biology and presented their latest results in the fight against diseases like cancer or bacterial infections. And presumably, they drank lots of good beer.
Well, I've got my brat, got my beer, I'm ready to go and enjoy Oktoberfest. Thanks for tuning in for this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice. We'll see you next week. Oh, it's delicious, Jeremy. Delicious. Sit, Beaker. Sit. Good dog. Germans know how to make a brat. Oh. Oh.